Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to our Wednesday night live from the New Mexico Philharmonic. It's so good to be back with you. And the reason we didn't have our shows in the last few weeks, one of the reasons is that I was actually able to be back in New Mexico last week. And I had the privilege of conducting our very first performance since the pandemic started. So we had this magnificent 4th of July concert in Rio Rancho, open air with 3,500 people. It was so amazing. And it was so unbelievable to see all my friends, the musicians from the orchestra, performing fantastically well. To our surprise, everyone's surprise, the orchestra sounded beautiful. It really didn't seem like we had not played for 18 months. And it was so amazing and exciting. So I'm back in Sao Paulo, and we have a wonderful show for you tonight. I'm actually interviewing a great professional musician. He's an oboist. He's a doctor. And he's also my big brother, Arcadio Minczuk. So we will start the show by listening to Arcadio perform a duo with harpist Luba Klevitsova, and they're playing the solo from Swan Lake by Tchaikovsky. Let's watch that. Now it is my great pleasure to introduce my guest for tonight's show, Arcadio Minczuk. Good evening, Arcadio.
Hello, good evening, Maestro Roberto, and good evening, everybody.
Thank you for joining us for the New Mexico Philharmonic's Wednesday Night Live. It's a pleasure to have you, and it's a pleasure to have, for the first time, a family member in my show.
It's my pleasure to be with you and with your public.
Well, usually I'm speaking from people in some other place in the world. I've talked to people from Moscow, from Berlin, people from Shanghai, and people in the United States. But today I'm speaking with someone right here in Sao Paulo. Now, Arcadio, you also were born in Sao Paulo like myself, and we come from a family of 8 kids. You were number 4 and I'm number 5. And we actually did not have a TV home when we were born. People say this as a joke, your parents did not have television at home, but we really didn't. I remember when my father bought the first TV, it was for the World Cup in 1974. I was already 7 years old. That was the first time we had a TV.
Yeah, we didn't have telephone, even telephone.
Exactly.
We didn't have.
But even though we had a TV, after I was 7, we still have 3 more kids. So we're 8, 5 girls and 3 boys, and everybody studied music. Now, how did you end up with the oboe?
Well, I before playing the oboe, I played the mandolin and the baritone. And I enjoyed to play the baritone. It's a very nice sound, dark sound, velvet sound.
Yeah,
And
the baritone
mandolin,
is the euphonium. For those that don't know, it's the
euphonium,
brass instrument euphonium.
euphonium. Yeah, and suddenly my father, he came from his military headquarters, and he was a choir conductor, military police choir conductor, and he came with the idea, and he told me, "You going now start learning to play the oboe, and your brother going to play the French horn." You. So I didn't know what was an oboe. So I asked, "What's an oboe?" He told me, "Oh, do you know oboe? It's an instrument. It's a wind instrument with 25 keys." So the only thing I remember, so I thought about the euphonium with so many keys. So then I start to play the oboe. I didn't like the first impression because, also I had to use a very old instrument my father borrowed from the police.
It was a Czech instrument,
Police
right?
band, Czech, very bad instrument. It's also for us to buy reeds was very expensive. We didn't have so much available here in Brazil. It came from France, was too expensive and rare. So for me, also to blow the instrument, it was terrible to make too much pressure. I was teenager and I was very thin and small, short. I was a small boy, and for me it was a very heavy duty to play the oboe. So I didn't like it. I told my father I want to play the euphonium. He told, no, you won't have future or a good career. So you're going to play the oboe, you're going to find a job in the future because not so many people plays the oboe here in Brazil. He was right. For 2 years I suffered to play the oboe. Then I start to enjoy.
Well, I have to say he was right in so many things because, you're now considered one of the foremost oboe players in the country. Arcadio has been the principal oboe of the most famous orchestra in Brazil, which is the São Paulo State Symphony Orchestra. And you became a musician of the São Paulo State Symphony when you were just 17.
Yes,
and soon you became principal oboe, and now you're basically a legend in this country. You're also a professor in one of the main universities, the UNESP, University of the State of São Paulo, and you are also have a doctoral degree. So I think he had something right there. But I think our father also was reading the Guinness Book of Records, because when he chose the oboe for you and the French horn for me, these are exactly the two instruments that the Guinness Book of Records states as the most difficult instruments of all. You knew that.
Yeah, he was a sadic, I'd say it. But for 4 decades I'm playing in this orchestra. I don't know where you found out about among the fourth oboist, best oboist in Brazil. I don't know. The new generations.
No. I said you are one of the foremost oboists, which means
foremost. Yes, I more experience, and we like to experience now in Brazil. The new generations of oboe players is, very good oboe players. So it's interesting to see.
Many of them are your students. But Arcadio, this is to Dad. This is to Joseph Minczuk, He's 83 years old and still going strong. Here's to our father. Cheers. Salud.
Cheers. Saúde, saúde.
Saúde. Because he is this amazing guy that insisted that all of his 8 children studied music. And 4 of the 8 children became professional musicians. Arcadio, myself, my younger sister, Cristiane, who's a singer, and our younger brother, Eduardo, who's a French horn player and also plays in the same orchestra as Arcadio. But Arcadio, you were actually my first music teacher. You know, you were like 9 years old and I was 6, and you taught me the mandolin. And I remember we were playing at church, and then I played the euphonium myself, and then I played the trumpet, and finally, you know, our father suggested I play the French horn, and it was wonderful because we had a chance to play always together in the youth symphony, in the Woodwind Quintet, in the music festivals, and it was a lot of fun traveling.
Yeah.
Now, finally, you made peace with the oboe, and you took real interest in this fascinating instrument. What do you like about the oboe?
Well, I like to know after you get a good technique to play good reeds and good instrument, the feeling of blow the instrument, the wind, you know, in your body going to the instrument, the sound of the oboe really is special. For me, always was the principal thing, the sound of the oboe, the tone of the oboe. So I always practice so many hours during a week of long tones, to build my sound, you know. And for sure, the oboe is I have the privilege to play the oboe because the most beautiful solos in the symphonic literature are written for the oboe, I think. So I'm in the center of the orchestra. So I'm playing the repertoire since the 17th century, playing the repertoire very rich for my instrument. So it's a privilege.
Let's hear some of those solos. We have some videos of you playing in the orchestra. So let's start with this famous solo from Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, the first movement, when Beethoven stops the entire orchestra. And this is one of the very first symphonies, and to this day, one of the only symphonies where the composer actually stops the music to have one instrument playing a solo cadenza. So let's hear Arcadio on Beethoven's Fifth oboe solo from the first movement. I have to say, that didn't sound very bad at all.
You know, this concert is from last year. So during the pandemic, so when we just restart the concerts and we have acrylic barriers, we kept a distance from other musicians. So it was a new experience.
But Arcadio, you always loved to play in the orchestra. More than playing solo concertos, you love to play in the orchestra, right?
Yes. Yeah, I prefer, for sure. I think I different from you. You are a soloist, but I prefer to be among my colleagues and and playing my solos, not to be in the front. I prefer to.
Let's watch another video of you playing an orchestra solo. And this is Offenbach, Orpheus in the Underworld, this beautiful oboe solo. Let's watch that. Now, Arcadio, our mom, Olga Minczuk, is also a beautiful person, a beautiful musician. She's also 83 years old and she still sings beautifully. She was never a professional musician, but she always had wonderful pitch and sang with this beautiful tone and always so much in tune. And well, I remember being influenced by the beautiful way our mother sang.
Yes, I remember we are talking about we didn't have television, no? For sure we didn't. But I remember my father. He was a policeman, and after his duty, he came home. He and my mother, they start to tailor. They were tailors, no? And they kept the radio on all the time, and we had classical music radio stations, so we could listen to music all day. And they sang duets, always duets in Russian, in Ukrainian, in Portuguese, especially in Russian. And they were they always sang in tune. And I suspect my father has perfect pitch also. I suspect. In our they have 8 kids, so at least 4, as far as I know, they have perfect pitch. I have, you do have, Christian has, Eduardo has, he probably, Esther and other brothers and sisters, they have.
Well, I remember he used to have competitions for all the kids, for perfect pitch, who would get all the notes played at the piano and so forth. Well, it was a very privileged job that our father had, because he was a policeman. But he didn't have to do any police work at all. He was only in charge of directing the chorus, and he only had to work with music. So that was a great privilege. And besides that, he was the music director at our church, which was a Russian Protestant church with a huge musical tradition. And of course, we played in the church. The church had a choir, the church had a band, and then the church had an orchestra. And both you and I often had to write the scores for the chorus, for the orchestra, out of the LPs that he would give us. And so that was great training for our ear. But Arcadio, now, you also played a lot of chamber music all throughout your life. I mean, I had the chance of playing with you in the Woodwind Quintet many times. But to this day, chamber music is something that is very much a part of your life. You also teach chamber music at the university, correct?
Oh, yes, at the university and the festivals, also Campus do Jordão Festival. And I almost all my life, I played Woodwind Quintet. Since 1979, we start 78, we start a quintet. You played with me and other friends. They play in the major orchestras here in Brazil. And I think to play in the Woodwind Quintet is the most difficult, especially for oboe, to blend the sound and the intonation to tune. It's very difficult. It's more difficult than to play with strings. And I kept I still have a woodwind quintet, so I still playing chamber music. I'm learning. I don't know. I think I'm becoming more mature, and I'm learning so many things. And even to play the oboe, I'm learning lately the last 5 years so many things about technique. It's interesting. I hope I could have enough time in the next 10 years to use everything I'm learning now with my maturity.
Hopefully not in the next 30 or 40 years. You're still a young guy, so
no, I don't know, but I 10 years is good and ahead. 10 more years, after playing for 4 decades in this orchestra, it's a lot, but I want to play. I want to keep playing. I don't want to hear the word retirement. It's good in Brazil. We don't need to retire because of the age. So I'm just going to retire if I feel that I'm not playing with a good quality performance.
Well, you're a young guy, and this year you celebrated 40 years of orchestral playing in the São Paulo State Orchestra. That's really amazing.
Yeah.
But now, go on. Go ahead.
No, I signed my contract in April 1st, Fool's Day, 1981. So 40 years.
So listen, we have now a video of actually a woodwind quintet performance. And this is with your colleagues from the São Paulo State Symphony Orchestra. So we will hear 2 clips. One is from Suite Nazaré, and the other is the Woodwind Quintet by Breno Blauth. Let's watch that. That was a lot of fun. You know, I actually missed playing Woodwind Quintet, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, Arcadio, I have to say, I have the utmost respect for you because you were always so disciplined, much more disciplined than I was. And, and you always try to help me out. And even when I started conducting, Arcadio was coming to my lessons with me when I was having private lessons. And then Arcadio would help me, and he would actually help me more than the teacher, because he would say, no, Roberto, try to do this, take more time here. Be careful with your gesture here, it's too big. Oh, you're not clear there. So you were giving me tips. We remember that, right?
Yes, just showing my, my feeling as a musician inside the orchestra, no?
And of course, and
cool.
when I made my professional debut was actually Beethoven 5 and you were playing.
Yes, I remember. Yes, sure.
So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And I actually missed, you know, being able to play with you. And now you took some time off. You had a sabbatical for 2 years. And you actually went to the United States and you attended Oberlin Conservatory. Tell us about that experience when you left the orchestra for 2 years to attend Oberlin.
You know, these 2 years, actually, I was a graduate program, artist diploma, so I could stay 3 or 4 months in United States. Then I came back to Brazil, stayed 4 months here, and then I went back to US. I could do this. So when I came back to Brazil, I played in the orchestra. Then I went back to US, and was wonderful because Oberlin is a special place, you know, and
especially for oboists, because you had a very famous and very wonderful teacher, right?
James Caldwell. He was a wonderful teacher. The oboe class was wonderful. Also, was very special. The place was special. Liberal Arts College also was interesting place. It's so many. I did also just. I attended a class of sociology also, so just for a semester, and it was very interesting place. I don't know, it was at the time of the political correctness. It was the o pico, como se diz,
it was at the highest
time. At that time. It was very interesting to be there. The world was changing a lot. No, the Berlin Wall was falling down. After 2 years, the end of the Soviet Union, and everything was changing very fast. And I could experience there. The music was wonderful. The conservatory was very rich. The nice theaters, all structure. It was wonderful to be there. A very special place.
Well, I remember, speaking of Berlin Wall, I was living in East Germany and you came to visit me in Leipzig. And of course, we went to East Berlin and West Berlin before the reunification. But also, we were on tour with the Leipzig Gewandhaus Orchestra, and we played in Ohio. When you were studying in Oberlin, we played in Columbus, and you came and met me in Columbus, Ohio, when I was on tour. And that was very special. And I went to Oberlin. I visited Oberlin. It was a fantastic school. And I remember those times very well. And I know how much you appreciate the time you studied in the US. Now, we're going to see another video. And this is also a Brazilian piece by composer Camargo Guarnieri. It's a beautiful waltz from his suite Villa Rica. And now you're playing with a string quartet, right? And we heard you with the Woodwind Quintet. Let's now watch this video with you playing solo with the string quartet. That's a beautiful piece by Guarnieri. Originally, it's composed for symphony orchestra. This is an arrangement for oboe and strings, correct?
Yeah, yes. It also was a, how to say, a soundtrack for a movie, no?
Exactly.
Rebellion in Villa Rica, yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And Arcadio, now, you mentioned that you like to play for at least another 10 years in the orchestra and still teach. What else do you like to do besides play the oboe and the music? And of course, you were just telling me that your thesis for your doctoral degree is something very special. Tell us about that research that you did for your doctoral degree.
Yeah, well, after I did the master degree, I wrote the history of my orchestra. It's half century of history in my orchestra at that time. No, was the first thing that anybody wrote about a symphony orchestra in Brazil. And so after I start to do the doctor program, I decide to still study about now deeply about the historic, economic, and political context of the Brazil and how the orchestras work at this environment. So I wrote, it was a big work, 650 pages.
Wow.
Yeah, in my thesis, it just, text. There's no other thing, pictures. No, it's text. So
Has
it was
translated? Has it been translated to English?
No, it's just in Portuguese, and unfortunately, and it was interesting because in Brazil we have a variety of the orchestras in systems. Different from US or Germany. US, and you have private orchestras in Germany, public orchestras, but in Brazil we have private, and even the public orchestras, they have different systems of how to hire the musicians and how they are sponsored. So it's a very complex work. So I could show how the government interferes in the orchestra and how the orchestra survives in a different economic environments also. It's interesting. So I choose about 5 orchestras to research. They have different systems of work, so was a very difficult time also, very interesting, but I at the time I was playing the orchestra, I was teaching at the university. I have 2 kids also, And I had to find time to write and to study, to research. So I use, late hours in the night to be with the computer to write everything. But it's interesting. I like it. I learned so many things, and I had to read so many things. It was an interesting time.
Well, it's amazing how you find time to do all these things. And I'm very proud of you, very proud to be your brother, and very happy that you're here with me in this show. I hope you have a chance to come to New Mexico.
I would like to.
You've been to many parts in the United States, but we have such a great orchestra, a great family of supporters, and great audience in Albuquerque. So I really hope you have a chance to come and visit us anytime soon. So Arcadio, we're about to end our show. Thank you so much for participating with me. It's been a pleasure. I wish you all the best, in the continuing your beautiful trajectory. And I know you're going to be performing, many more concerts to the privileged people that have a chance to hear you as principal oboe here in Sao Paulo. So to end the show, we're going to actually now see a performance that we had the chance to do together. This was 2 years ago at Campos do Jordão. And this is Arcadio, soloist of the Breno Blaut Concertino for Oboe and Orchestra. Just an excerpt from it. Yeah. With my orchestra here in Sao Paulo, which is the Opera Orchestra, the Municipal Symphony Orchestra, another great orchestra in Brazil. And so let's watch that. And with that, we will say goodbye. And I also thank you for watching our program. We'll be back next week.
Okay, thanks for the invitation. It was a pleasure for me to be here with everybody, especially the people from New Mexico. I know it's a wonderful place. I see in the TV shows the balloons, yes. Everything is very interesting. So thanks for the invitation. Thanks everybody for watching.
Thank you, everyone. Remember, stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll see you next week. Good night, everybody.
Good night.